Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This video here will answer some of your questions on the CSEP Visual Arts journal making process. So let's fly on into it. Artwork fly. Artwork fly.
Does the cover page thickness matter? Since you said we should include some form of artistic, skill in the whole page itself, does the thickness really matter? Like if you're using layers to create some form of art or acrylic paint to create some kind of 3D effect, does the thickness matter?
No, it doesn't, because I would have seen cover pages being made out of leather. I would have seen cover pages made out of plywood, right? So you see, the students could get very creative at some point. So it doesn't, what we're looking for is something that is artistically presentable.
What's the submission format of the journal for this year? Is it the same as a hard copy journal, or will it be electronically mailed?
No, it's going to be a hard copy as we normally would submit it.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that in regards to my individual journal, I had an idea where there could be a journal at the end to showcase all of the extra work that wasn't able to be showcased before because of the limit. For example, it could be put in the appendix or in a separate section, such as extra works or your personal gallery.
It could be placed in the appendix. That's fine.
When is the journal due exactly?
The journal is normally due on when the student has their last exam for visual arts. They usually submit the journal to the examiners at the center at that point in time.
I wanted to know the size of that booklet, the example you showed. What is the size, the dimension that was used for that one? It was particularly nice to see it. I do encourage my students to decorate the pages if they can, reflecting the theme, of course, because I still feel it needs to have, I'm really pleased with what you showed. But I feel that the journal still needs to have a hand-done, a hand feel, like interactive, and this is something the child should spend time doing and make the mark on and so on. Not just copy and paste something and print it out and then we'll get it bound. So I'm really happy with the example that you showed. But what is the size that, can you say what size that piece was?
Right. In terms of the actual size of it, I think it was, that is about 11 by probably 18. What they did, they
so that would be like the foolscap, the legal size sheet paper then.
Okay. You bought a watercolor pad, one of the larger watercolor pads, and they just cut each page into two.
Okay.
And they were able to use the watercolor paper to add their designs and so on to the pages. To pretty up the journal.
I was wondering what is the highest dimensions for the journal? But what is the highest?
What is the highest? You mean in terms of mark?
Yes, sir, for the size of the journal.
Oh, for the size of the journal. Well, in the syllabus, we have a recommended size in the journal, and we would recommend that you stay within proximity of what is stated in the syllabus, right?
Sir Ramlogan, may I say something? Yes. I think sometimes they may need like a little like physical, because we don't necessarily know they're not necessarily visualizing the measurement. So I would suggest maybe like no smaller than a letter size paper and no larger than like a quarter sheet of cottage paper. Most of us know quarter sheet, right? Like how you split the quarter sheet of a cottage paper. So I'd say no smaller than the letter size and no larger than the quarter sheet. I don't know if that kind of gives a reference or something.
That's a good reference.
Okay, good. I saw some of the students asking about if they can type it or if it can be online. I'm not sure if they're understanding that the journal can be presented in both formats. Maybe can explain a little bit. For instance, like at my school, what I tend to encourage is for those of them who have nice handwriting, they can write it. But for those who don't necessarily want to do that, it's like to type it and then even at the example you showed, I think she pasted sections on like cut out like she typed it and then pasted sections on paper. But there's also the option depending on the size that you choose. If you choose to do a letter size or a legal size journal, you could actually just create the pages and type directly onto the page, print the page as is, and bound the page. Isn't that so? With your
Yes.
images and so on or whatever. Right?
Yes, you can do that. So they have the option of either typing or handwritten, right? And they have the option of either writing on like in that journal that example that I showed, the student would have typed out, cut it out, print it out, cut it out, and stick it back.
Yes.
Or they could actually print directly onto the paper, right? When you're printing directly onto the paper, it could pose a challenge depending on what type of paper you're using, right? So it could stifle the creativity. If you notice this journal that I presented there, the actual pages was that was watercolor paper. So it allowed for the student to design the page, right, beforehand.
Yes.
As compared to if the child was just going and printing. Now, if the child will be just printing on paper, on the regular paper, printing paper, right, it is accepted. They would not lose marks, right, but it doesn't allow the child to be creative then. Unless the child is a graphic, we would have seen students done journals that took the format of those glossy magazines, right? I know the printing would have cost a lot.
Yes.
Those things. But again, most of those students were graphic design students, and that is what graphic design will teach, right? And if they could apply their knowledge and apply their skills, then by all means, go ahead. That's what we're about.
One thing I would suggest, sir, for those who actually printed, and it seems to have worked well for my students, for those who actually print straight on the paper and then bind the sheet, is to give themselves a nice margin that they can then add little notations, little illustrations, different things that they can even paste. I've even had them, like, if they, let's say they decorated the paper, they could actually paste a strip of the paper that they decorated on the page to,
Because you do get marks for presentation or visuals, for journal presentation, for design of the cover and all these different, right?
Sir, in regards to the printing, the cost of the printing, sir. Last year I had a student who had to print and she paid almost $3,000, 3,000 Jamaican dollars. I don't know how much that would translate to your money, but it was a lot of money for us in terms of to print the pages in full color.
Printing is usually a costly thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why one of the ways that we get around that is you have them print on regular paper and cut it out and stick it. So they allow the freedom to decorate the page without having to pay that exorbitant cost for color printing.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you.
But like I say, some of these things will vary from school to school. It depends on the facilities you have available. In some cases, the schools will actually pay for the printing and they will provide the resources for the printing and so on. But in some cases, the students have to do it on their own. So it all depends on what you have access to, and that will vary from school to school. So we have to make the best of whatever situation we have.
Okay,
may I make a suggestion as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I understand about the printing because usually students want to type and print, and then the colored images take a lot more money than the black and white. But what I've noticed is most students tend to wait until the last minute. So maybe a week before everything is due, they get to printing. So everything kind of piles up and it seems like they're spending a lot more money. But if they just do things incrementally, so you could print like 5 pages this week and another 5 pages in the next week, it would seem like it doesn't cost as much. So not allowing the work to pile up would probably be more beneficial for them as well.
And that is another best practice. So you see, among yourselves, we have the best practice and what worked for various persons. So that is something we encourage our teachers to come together. And I am sure that you would have your teachers groups where you could share and you can try to assist each other in terms of dealing with issues and that kind of thing. What some people may have something that is working for them and they could share it. And it's a learning experience for everybody.
Another suggestion?
Yes.
Another suggestion is to include the printing cost in the CXC fees. So at initial stage, when they are paying for their subjects, you can include the printing cost and the school prints when it's time for them to print.
Yeah. So that's another option. So there are many alternatives that you could explore. Again, as I said, it will vary from one school to another. What I would ask of the teachers, once you are available and your students are submitting their journal, to ensure that they get a receipt stating that they would have submitted the journal. That receipt is a pull-out from that CXC's cover page that they send. And they have to keep that receipt, because if they have to query, that receipt is important to show that they would have submitted their journal. In a like manner, when they do their exams and they would have completed the expressive form, they should be issued with a receipt. Like all the other subjects, when they complete the exam, they get a receipt showing that they would have completed the exam, that they received their receipt. So for visual arts, they should be receiving 3 receipts, one for each expressive form and one for the reflective journal. What I encourage my teachers in Trinidad to be able to do is to collect these receipts from the students and keep it safe, because we know how students are. Sometimes they take the receipt and they lose it, they put it away and they can't find it and all these things. If as a teacher you have it there in your safekeeping, should at any point in time there is a review process or you want to review the student's grade, query the grade, you have the receipt to show that the child would have completed the exam.
Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can always know when I upload.